All right, good morning, everybody. I'll call the meeting to order. The meeting of the Carver Select Board for Monday, December 5th, 2022. This meeting is being cablecast by Area 58 Community Access Media, Channel 15, and will be posted by Area 58 on YouTube as soon as possible. There are openings on several committees. Please refer to the front page of our website for a listing and application. If we could all stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Our community prayer. Almighty God, humbly we pray your blessing as we concern our life with the opportunity to serve our community. Enhance us with your spirit of dignity and selflessness. May we become instruments of support and understanding as we seek to bring an environment of trust and purpose among all who provide the many services that make us all that we can become. Help us achieve the goals of our commitment in this office that is now our responsibility. And especially, we lift our prayers for all the citizens of our community that we may have been allowed to serve, that they may discover the fullness and joy of life that we all seek, and keep those serving in our armed forces and our first responders in our hearts and thoughts. Amen. Well, thank you for joining us this morning. We are here for our tax classification hearing, and I'll open the hearing at this point. And folks, if you could introduce yourself for the folks at home.
Hi, I'm Joe Roach. I'm the town assessor.
Mike Paddock, Board of Assessors.
All right. Thank you all for joining us this morning. I guess, first of all, I'd ask if there were any members of the public that would like to speak. Hearing none, we do have a packet that I handed out to all of you from Carver Concerned Citizens that they asked us to consider. Have you folks seen this at all?
I received it 2 minutes ago
Oh, you
before I
did?
was
Okay.
walking here. I haven't read it yet.
Okay, but you did get a copy.
I got a copy.
All
I
right,
haven't
thanks.
looked at it.
Okay, folks.
Well, first of all, thank you very much for having a not ordinarily scheduled meeting so we could do this morning. I appreciate it. Most of you have done this before, so it is pretty straightforward. There's going to be 4 motions that you guys are going to make today. We're going to adopt a minimum residential factor. We're going to vote on an open space exemption, a residential exemption, and a small commercial business exemption. So, our levy for fiscal year 2023 has been determined to be $30,140,600. That's an increase from fiscal year 2022. Prop 2.5 or 2.5% that we were allowed to go up was $698,792. We had $398,096 in new growth, which gives us a subtotal of $29,048,550, and then we have $1,092,050 debt exclusion, which brings our allowable levy to $30,140,600. Page 4 of the packet just shows that same thing from the Department of Revenue. Our total taxable value for fiscal year 2023 is $1,895,958,780. We're predominantly residential. 84% of our taxable value is made up of the residential classes. The remaining 15.11% is coming from your commercial, industrial, and personal property classes. If the town were to adopt a single rate, not a split rate, we would have a single tax rate of $15.90. Page 7 of your packet is showing what the various shift percentages would result in for a residential, a residential and commercial tax rate. Your first line is showing a shift of 1, which would be everybody's taxed at the single tax rate, down to 150, 150%, which is the maximum we're allowed to shift to the commercials. For the past several years, the select board has adopted a shift of 145%, so shifting 145% to the commercial classes. The Board of Assessors reviewed all of this information at their November 22nd meeting. Similar to last year, they've recommended a shift of decreasing the shift from 145 to 142.5, so a 2.5% reduction in the shift back to the residential class. Additionally, they recommended not to adopt a residential exemption, an open space exemption, or the small commercial business exemption. Page 8 of your packet shows you the average single family value, the average commercial value, and the average industrial value. And again, this shows you with what you shift, how that tax bill would change for those classes. So I'm not sure if you have any questions for me at this point, but I'd be happy to answer any questions.
All right. Are there any questions from the board? Mr. Carter?
Sure. I guess it sounds like the commercial side was always 1.5, right?
We've been at 1.45.
And it seems like the intent is that we're bringing it down gradually.
That's been the hope
Yeah.
of the Board of Assessors for years, that we bring that more in line. There aren't other towns of similar size and nature of the town of Carver that uses the split tax rate in the way we do. Our tax, our valuation company has told us that what we do is cruel to small businesses in this town. This provision to do the split tax rate is for cities like Boston, where we have skyscrapers and then we have two-story tenements 2 blocks over, and trying to make things more equitable in those kind of situations. But we've used that here differently. For us as a Board of Assessors, our 2 things are accuracy and fairness, right? And we have the accuracy people, which we're really fortunate to have. Joe Roach here has done an excellent job, and that we have the able guidance of Ellen Blanchard and the stable ballast of Mr. Sullivan keeping us on board. But we want to make sure that we have, we're doing things accurate and fair. Joe, accuracy. My thing is fairness.
Sure.
And since I've been on here, it's just one of the few things in our town that really bother me, that we're just not, we haven't been fair about how we deal with this compared to how assessing works. I didn't know any of this till I got on the Board of Assessors. It was an eye-opener to me where we are as a town. I understand that you guys have your own things you have to deal with. So we get that, we understand that. But what we're doing to small businesses and how we approach this, it's never been for us on the grounds of we're chasing business away. It doesn't help, but it's never been on the on any other grounds other than it's not right. To me, it's a moral issue, and we don't think that, as a board, we don't think we should do away with the split tax rate completely, but we'd like to see it eventually somewhere down the road get into the 130 somehow, so it's a little less egregious. We've pushed this just about as far as we can go. So yes, that's where we're at on that. And while I'm talking, seeing as I have a moment, thank you for your time. I know this is everyone's favorite meeting. It's not. So I just want to say that our board and our office, as it's currently constituted, is functioning very well. Very pleased to see how things are working out in the corner office down the hall. We are going to be requesting from the town some funds to hire a technician, to have a local assessing technician, as the assessing business since COVID has kind of turned into a drive-by business. So we think that we're missing a lot of things. And we think if that comes up, that we can have a person that has local knowledge, who is boots on the ground here, to make sure that we don't miss a lot. We will pick up probably much more than obviously the cost of the person that we would hire, but also any changes that we would make in the classification. So that's all I have to say. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mr. Carter, are you all set?
Yes.
But thank you all just for your hard work on this. We know it, a lot of work goes into it, so we appreciate all the hard work your office and the board does, so thank you. Are there any other questions from the board? Ms. Bogart?
I've learned a lot since being on the board about how taxes work. And in general, I've always thought, okay, taxes up, home assessments down, and vice versa, because taxes are never going down. They kind of balance each other out. It says the average single-family home value is $448,400. Do you know what it was last year?
It was 387,170.
381. So we're looking at
387.
right.
Yeah.
So that's like a what, $50,000 increase
So
in
just
home values?
the residentials increased, I mean, looking at the whole class overall, increased 15%. Your commercials went up 9%. So that was the overall residentials increased 15, commercial, industrial, personal property, 9%.
Okay. See, I hear fairness, and I'm not trying to be unfair, but when I see home values increasing that much and a potential tax rate increase, it's kind of a double whammy, and I have a hard time swallowing that
Okay.
right now, given the climate right now. So,
There is no double whammy. When the home, doesn't matter how high the average house would be, the tax rate is always going to be balanced backwards by 2.5. We can only raise taxes 2.5%. So there's no extra. If the price of a house goes up, its tax rate will go down. It's like it's on a pulley hanging. Just want to make sure we're clear about that.
yeah. Yeah, I just have a hard time doing that right now.
And
Just one follow-up question on that, and that is, way back when, it used to be something like, you look at your assessed value, and it was nowhere near market, going back 10, 15 years ago, right?
Yep.
And then all of a sudden, we started getting.
Sorry, John, I can't hear you.
The pendulum started to swing, where now it's getting closer to market, right? So when you're saying that the average value is in the 420s range,
Yep.
briefly, not in detail, the calculations for that, are they market value calculations based on a real estate consultant? Is how you determine
So-
that increase?
We're in fiscal year 2023, so this is what's there as of January 1, 2022, and that's analyzing sales from calendar year 2021. So we're looking at 2021 sales for fiscal year 23. So yes, it's market value. You have to be within 10% plus or minus, so 90 to 110 of your class has to be within 90, your assessed value has to be within 10% of what the market value is. Typically, we're in the 95 to 97% range of market value. But of course, your market values, you're looking back, 2 years. So we're always close, and it's just, you're close to what it was in the past. It's not as of today.
So a better real estate market back in 2021 gives that effect
Exactly.
today that our taxes are going up. When if I go and get a refinancing on my home and they do a market analysis on it, it could come in less than my assessed value.
As of today, yeah, exactly.
Thank you.
All right. Ms. Jones?
Thank you. And I know Mr. Paddock knows what I'm going to say. What I'd like to say is my standard comment about the quantity and quality of the kind of businesses we would need to get in town to make that much of a difference. This shift will save the commercial properties $300 and change, and it will add about $30 to the residential tax.
Exactly. Yep.
And I understand the fairness part of it, but on the other hand, I think of the owners of some of these strip malls we have. This is not something that's definitely going to hurt those small businesses. It's that business owner who pays those taxes, the one who actually owns the building. will it hurt other small businesses like our single person owned businesses? Yes, it will a bit. But, and I do get that. But the problem is that if we were to get the quality and quantity of businesses in this town that would make that much of a difference, it wouldn't be Carver anymore. That's my concern.
Thank you.
Yeah, I just want to give you just a rule of thumb for Carver, because how it works out pretty much like this. And for every dollar, and you just spoke the numbers right there. For every dollar that we save a resident, we charge a business 10. All right, so just think of that. We're not trying to argue that we're bringing big businesses in. We just believe the small businesses we have, and there are many in Carver, it costs them $10 to give everyone else $1.
And just speaking for myself, I appreciate what you're saying, and I do think it's a worthy long-term goal to try to bring this split down. And I do hope with some of the proposed developments, commercial developments we have going on in town, that's something this board can work toward. But I just don't see that this particular year is the right year to start that trend. Those are my thoughts. So with that, is anything else from any members of the board? Folks, anything else?
Nope.
Grateful for your time.
All right. Is there a motion on the open space discount?
So this would be a motion, the board's recommending not to adopt, so it would be a motion not to adopt an open space discount.
Well, I guess I'm looking for any motion.
Oh, sorry. Sorry.
From the board.
I move that we not adopt the open space exemption.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
All right. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on the open space discount?
Can we get a recap of what it is?
Sure.
So the open space discount would shift, it's a valuation exemption. So it would shift it would shift within the residential and open space classes from open space parcels to residentials. So your open space value you'd be taxed on a lower value. You'd be raising the same amount of money through residential and open space, but the amount raised by the open space class would decrease. It's very similar to what you do with the residentials and the commercials. You'd just be shifting within that class as opposed to two different classes. There's only about 15 towns in Massachusetts that have open space parcels, and open space parcels doesn't mean, the Cedar Swamp or a conservation land or anything owned by an exempt entity. Those aren't classified as open space. So we don't have any, so it's really sort of a moot point, but only one town in the state has an open space exemption. So it's a very uncommon, and it's not really relevant because we don't have any open space parcels. Not that we don't have protected open space.
If I may, so yeah, I was just going to clarify, it doesn't mean we don't have open space.
Exactly.
But our open space is protected and owned by the town,
Exactly.
not
And
by
if
an
you had
individual landowner.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So Carver Conservation Commission purchased a parcel. It's classed as a 900 and exempt parcel, not as a class 2 open space.
Right. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else? All right. We have a motion and a second not to approve the open space discount. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? It is unanimous. All right, next is the residential exemption. Could you just give us a little background on what the residential exemption is?
So similar to the open space exemption that we just talked about, it would shift within the residential class. So the residential exemption would apply to people who are year-round residents of Carver, and it would shift to those who have a Carver property as their second home or as a rental. Same thing with the open space, is that Carver doesn't have, like, let's say if Crystal Lake here, right? Let's say all of those were seasonal rentals. Then that might make sense because you have somewhere you can shift that tax burden to. Right now, there's not a large stock of second homes in Carver. So even if you did adopt this, there's nowhere to shift it to. It's common out on the Cape, so you have Provincetown, Truro, Nantucket, Martha's Vineyard, but it's more prevalent in large cities. Boston, Cambridge, Watertown have it. Same thing, about 15 to 17 have it. It's really not appropriate for Carver.
Okay, thank you. Is there a motion on the residential exemption?
I move that we not approve the residential exemption.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor of not approving the residential exemption?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It is unanimous. And next is the small business exemption. And again, just for the folks at home, could you just give us a brief overview of what the small business exemption would be?
So it's another value-based exemption. Every year, the Board of Assessors receives from the Department of Labor Statistics from Massachusetts a list that gives a mailing address of a business, and the number of employees they have. So the small business exemption would apply to businesses that the property value is $1 million or less, and it has fewer than 10 employees at all locations. Similar to what Sarah was saying in shifting the tax rate, this would be applied to the tax bill. So it might not necessarily be the small business that's within the property. It's going to be the real estate tax bill that would receive the exemption. Again, let's see here. Yeah, I mean, you have 10 towns who do it, more or less, and it's towns that have a lot more business. You're looking at Rentham, Seekonk, Dartmouth, Braintree, Avon, North Attleboro. So it's where it's a lot more common, and you have a lot more businesses.
Okay, thank you. Any questions on the board? All right, is there a motion on the small business exemption?
I move that we not approve the small business exemption.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor of not approving the small business exemption? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It is unanimous. And finally, to classify the tax rate. Is there a motion on the shift of the tax rate?
So just real quick, what you are adopting is a minimum residential factor. So if you're staying at the shift of 145, you would be adopting a minimum residential factor of 0.9199. So that would be the motion.
I'm sorry, could you give me that
Point what?
point nine?
0.9199.
But the motion we would be taking would be on the shift percentage, correct?
You'd be adopting a residential factor, which calculates to a shift percentage, but that's what you would be adopting.
Thank you. There a motion on the residential factor?
I move that we adopt a residential factor of 0.919.
Well, okay.
Can I get clarity on that, though? Because I'm reading here, the classification tax rate, due to the high level shifting tax rate, the CIP classes, the board voting here to reduce the shift from 145 to 142.5. So then wouldn't that be 0.9243?
Well, I'm making a motion to keep it at 145.
Oh,
We're
I think that's a clearer
recommending-
motion to-
Okay.
so we can.
Well, I was trying to use
Sorry,
Mr.
go ahead.
Roach's terminology.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. But exactly. So they're the same thing. It's just the residential factor results in a shift percentage.
Okay, so your motion is to continue the residential factor of 1.45%?
Yes,
correct?
and to adopt a residential factor of 0.919.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor of the 1.45?
Aye.
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 Opposed? It is unanimous. All right. I think that concludes our tax classification hearing. I really want to extend our thanks once again for all the hard work that you folks in your office and the Board of Assessors do.
Thank you. Thank you.
Anything else you folks would like to
I'd like to thank Ellen publicly. Tomorrow's 1 year here, and she's helped me way more than her $750 stipend is worth, and she's helped the town and me a lot, and I really appreciate all the work she's done helping me this year.
Well said. Ellen Blanchard is a tremendous asset to the town.
And the board as a whole, but she's helped me a lot.
All right. Anything else? Anything from the board? All right. Thank you, folks.
Oh, and I just need you guys to sign that sheet I put on your desk.
All right. We will make sure we'll sign it as soon as we adjourn the meeting.
Okay. Yep.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Let's see. Topics not reasonably anticipated by the chair 48 hours in advance of the meeting. There are none. Are there any select board announcements? Anyone? No? Hearing none. Our next meeting is tomorrow, December 6th. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? It is unanimous. Thank you, folks. Have a good day, everyone.